Well, now that I look back on it, I mean, as far as finishes and stuff, I have my own agenda. When you're wrestling me, I've got plan A, plan B, plan C, the 3 standard finishes. And then there's sometimes D and E if we need to go there. But usually plan A, B, and C, we can draw 2-3 times with those finishes. But I watched Eddie Graham for years. Even though I really didn't know what I was watching, I saw the angles. I saw all this stuff, these crazy finishes that Eddie Graham had. Plus, he was a tough son of a bitch. He was like the Stone Cold Steve Austin with platinum blonde hair. Eddie Graham was the tough guy. I don't know if you ever saw him wrestle, but that was his whole thing. And the whole time Matsuda was breaking me in, you got to realize they never smartened me up. I'm real slow about shit. I love this business, and I back then, you could say whatever you want about wrestling being fake, but I thought the shit was real. And I believed it because we had Bob Roop and the Big O, Randy's grandfather, Bob Orton's dad. I had all these guys that were just worked really, really snug. And Steve Kern was very convincing, when he first started, and he was having all these programs with Roop and Orton. So I watched all these guys. So when I was breaking in with Matsuda, and I was getting stretched every day, and then twice a week we'd take marks down and beat them up, and I was in charge of getting them to where they were exhausted and ready to pass out. Then I'd feed them to Gordon Nelson or Matsuda, and I was in charge of putting the wood on the doors so they couldn't run, the Sportatorium on the back side of the doors. And it was just one of those things that, being around those guys. But Eddie Graham and his finishes, watching him, he was just like a genius, And after I worked out in Matsuda and they stretched me and beat me up, all of a sudden I got a call one day that Eddie Graham wants to work out with you. Shoot, I started crying. I said, oh my God, I can't take anymore. I don't know what I'm in for now. I'm not going to be able to, Eddie Graham was different than Matsuda. Matsuda was killing me, but Eddie Graham was like the legend. I was going to quit. I was so afraid of him. But I went down to the Sportatorium. I got in the ring with him. He taught me how to lock up, taught me how to grab a headlock, taught me how to take a backdrop, and I started crying because I thought
it was a shoot.
And when they told me that this is what we do, I still didn't get it. I went and had my first match with Don Serrano, several matches with Brian Blair, and I never heard the word kayfabe. I didn't know what kayfabe meant. And I was in the ring the first match, and all the heels and all the baby faces would come out and watch my matches, and I couldn't figure out why. They were hemming and hawing and laughing because I was trying to beat Brian Blair and I was trying to beat Gordon Nelson. I couldn't beat either one of them because I didn't know how to wrestle as good as them, So it took me a while to catch on, but Eddie Graham and his finishes and stuff, he was the genius, man, from day one.
You got some of your finish that you do, which I believe that you would kind of incorporate towards some of the classic matches that you had in the WWF days in those first WrestleMania years. I want to get to those in a minute. So all of a sudden you go to Minnesota and it's Vern and Greg say, hey dude, go down, stay down, sell your ass off. One time I was I was never your size. I was about 255 when I broke into business, and I'm in Tennessee and I'm starving. And Tojo Yamamoto, a little short Japanese guy, Tojo was about 5'6", if that. And, he's trying to tell me because I'm this young football player and, when you come in, you think you're tough or whatever. And hey, man, this can't hurt me because I'm bigger than you. Well, the art of the sell is to be able to, if nothing hurts you, nobody cares. So anyway, Tojo says, here, grab my ear. And of course I grabbed his earlobe and he just cringed. And I thought I heard him. I said, oh man, he goes, that's sell. And it was like a light bulb went off in my head, and I understood it. We were talking about mentors because he put a guy with you. He was a tag guy, Tony Altamore. Just bring me up to speed on how you were hoisted away from the Gagnes. Did you want to leave? Did Junior come down there?
Well, I was doing really great in Minnesota. It was probably the funnest time of my life. I loved the Twin Cities. It was just great being up there. I was single. And I lived in the Versailles Apartments behind the old Met Center where all the stewardesses used to stay. And I was there. So I had the time of my life. And, I actually slid in to Minnesota when I left Japan. I said, run all my pictures. But when I slid in there, I thought I was going to be a heel, but the Crusher had just left. He was like the Dusty Rhodes or John Cena or Stone Cold. No, he wasn't a heel half the time, but the Crusher was always a babyface. And I didn't realize it, but I stumbled into his spot. So I was there 3 years, doing great, making all kind of money. And I remember we were in the Rosemont Horizon. And it was Hulk Hogan and Greg Gagne and Jim Brunzell in a 6-man tag. Of course, the place was sold out. Against, come on, brother, I got to say it was true.
Yeah, and what a great building.
Yeah, against Sheik Adnan El Casey, Sheik Ken Patera and Sheik Jerry Blackwell, right? They were all under the garb. And all of a sudden, when I got ready to go to the ring, Steve Taylor, I don't know if you know Steve. He used to be the in-house photographer. He goes, "Hey, Terry, how you doing?" I said, "Steve, what are you doing here?" Because I was good friends with Steve. You know, it's me, him, and Vince in the very beginning, even before Patterson showed up. It was me, Steve Taylor, and Vince in that office every day. And so all of a sudden, he goes, "Take this card." And it says, "Call Vince." I said, "I'm not calling Vince." He told me I'd never work there again. "Well, let me take a picture." And he took a picture with the little white headband I had on. And it was like this picture with the white headband. It was the first cover of the WWF magazine they came out with. And I said, "I'm not," and I took the picture. I said, "Steve, I'm not calling Vince." He goes, "No, Vince Jr. wants you to call him." So I said, "Okay."